Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 219 based on novel. So let's start. There was a person standing on the sword energy. He was wearing a large, yellow robe that blew in the wind and looked quite elegant. At this level of cultivation, someone's outer appearance no longer reflected their age. He looked about 30 years old and had an ordinary face. However, his narrow eyes revealed a flash of coldness. Rich origin energy came from inside his body. It was obvious he had reached the peak of the illusory yin stage. As he closed in, the people before him immediately scattered and didn't dare to obstruct him. He was coming closer and closer to the 10,000 feet area. It wasn't that he didn't see the ring of dust or didn't know the meaning, but his speed didn't slow down at all as he charged into the 10,000 feet area. The origin energy from him charging in caused the dust to be blown backwards. These scene caused all the surrounding cultivators to pay attention. As far as they knew, Wang Lin was a powerful cultivator and that yellow-robed young man was also a powerful cultivator. These two would definitely fight because of the dark hole on the celestial formation. This kind of battle was not common. There were even cultivators holding on to the idea of the two of them seriously injuring each other so they could gain the benefits. Li Yuan's expression changed slightly. While he was anxious, Wang Lin's calm voice entered his ears. "Brother Li, go down first." Li Yuan didn't speak and directly went into the dark hole. The moment he entered, the yellow-robed young man closed in. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he raised his right hand and waved at the void. A bolt of purple thunder instantly appeared. The moment the purple thunder appeared, purple mist appeared around it. The bolt of purple thunder shot toward the young man in yellow robes along with the purple mist. The young man's pupils immediately shrank. It wasn't that he didn't see Wang Lin, but because his status in his family was special and his family members were close behind him, he didn't pay much attention to Wang Lin. He let out a laugh as his hand formed a claw and 5 strands of black gas appeared and shot toward the thunder. The 5 strands of black gas immediately surrounded the thunder. "Devour!" As the yellow-robed young man shouted, the 5 black gas strands immediately turned into 5 black dragons and devoured the thunder. In the blink of an eye, the thunder was devoured and returned to the young man's side. As the 5 black dragons circled the young man, they immediately began to grow. In the blink of an eye, they turned into 500 feet long dragons. As a result, the young man's aura suddenly increased. The yellow-robed young man slowly said, "Fellow cultivators' attack is pretty good. Please wait a moment for I, Tang Yengyun, wish to explore the hole the celestial left behind." How about it? It was already extremely difficult for the young man to say something like this. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin's cultivation level was higher than his and could be compared to his brother's, who was at the corporeal yang stage, he wouldn't have said this. The moment he said that, the expressions of the cultivators nearby changed. One of them exclaimed, "Tang family! Could it be the Southern Domain's Tang family?" At this moment, all of the cultivators seemed to realize something. Wang Lin coldly looked at the person and calmly said, "You're not qualified." Tang Yengyun was startled. He had thought about how the other party would refuse and how his expression would change after hearing he was from the Tang family. However, he could have never imagined that this person would be so arrogant. His expression turned gloomy and he laughed. "If that's the case, then I won't disturb you." With that, he began to retreat and thought, "This person's cultivation level is higher than mine. I'll back off now and wait for my brother to come. It won't be too late to act then." Although his Tang family wasn't one that had an inheritance from the celestial realm, it was still not small. Many of them had come to the Thunder Celestial Realm this time, and rather than separating, they stuck together. He was only here to scout the situation. Wang Lin's expression was neutral and he took a step forward. With one step, the surrounding 10,000 feet area was filled with rich origin energy. His speed wasn't fast, but he calmly walked toward Tang Yengyun step by step. Tang Yengyun's expression became grim and he immediately backed up. At this moment, Wang Lin opened his mouth and calmly said, "My thunder is not something you're qualified to devour." At the moment he spoke, the black dragons next to Tang Yangyun immediately let out painful roars. Thunder filled their bodies and explosions came from inside them. In an instant, one of the black dragons exploded. Following that were 4 more explosions as the remaining 4 black dragons also exploded. Under the impact of the powerful force, Tang Yinyan's expression changed greatly. Both of his hands formed a seal and a black dragon mark appeared between his eyebrows. Then a strand of black gas came out from his body and surrounded him. Only by doing this was he able to protect himself from the impact. As he sucked in a breath of cold air and cold sweat came from his forehead, anger swelled up in his heart. He felt like he hadn't shown any hostility, and it was unlikely for the other party to have detected his thoughts. However, before he had time to ask, Wang Lin's eyes became cold. Wang Lin raised his right hand and the beast bone tattoo on the back of his hand began to move. It moved along Wang Lin's finger and shot out. In an instant, a giant beast bone tattoo appeared before Wang Lin and its 4 horns gave off a cold aura. The moment it appeared, it shot toward Tang Yangyun. Tang Yangyun retreated with a gloomy expression and the black dragon flashed once more between his eyebrows and black mist appeared. This time, even more origin energy came out and then the entire black mark flew out from between his eyebrows. It turned into a black dragon before it opened its mouth and mercilessly attempted to devour the beast's bone. This black dragon was about 1,000 feet large and gave off a natural pressure the moment it appeared. It was covered in numerous dragon scales that had runes painted on them. It was as if it was trying to devour the world, and endless origin energy fluctuations came from the black dragon. Origin dragon, devour! After Yang Yangyun shouted, he retreated without stopping. However, just as the black dragon attempted to devour, 2 ghostly flames appeared in the 2 eye sockets of the beast bone. The moment they appeared, it was as if the beast bone was alive and an evil aura suddenly appeared. This evil aura was too strong, but it only appeared for an instant before disappearing without a trace. All of this happened too quickly. The moment the evil aura dissipated, the black dragon's eyes suddenly opened wide as if it was filled with terror. Its huge body froze and a grey color began to spread from its tail. In almost an instant, its entire body was grey. This grey was the color of stone. This black dragon formed by a spell became a stone statue in an instant. Even the origin energy around it was turned into stone. The black dragon fell from the sky and smashed into the ground with a bang. This scene seemed to cause everything to stop. All of the surrounded people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air and were dumbfounded. This? What kind of treasure is this? Tang Yangyun stared at the fragments of the stone statue with eyes filled with terror. The hearts of the cultivators 10,000 feet away pounded like crazy as they couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. Fear swept through their hearts like a storm. The 10,000 feet area was like a primal beast that made them not dare to even take half a step inside. All these first-step cultivators couldn't help but take a step back. It was as if the distance of 10,000 feet wasn't far enough, and they were afraid they would be affected. Those cultivators with thoughts of benefiting when the 2 seriously injured themselves were covered in cold sweat and gave up on the idea. In particular, the Zhao family brothers secretly felt glad they didn't enter, because if they had, they would have died. These 10,000 feet were no longer mere distance but a forbidden zone of death. At this moment, these cultivators clearly remembered Wang Lin's appearance. Wang Lin was now deeply rooted in their minds. Wang Lin took a step forward and raised his right hand. He immediately withdrew the beast bone and it turned back into a tattoo on the back of his right hand. His speed didn't reduce as he took 1 step and appeared before Tang Yangyun. His 2 fingers were filled with origin energy and he was about to press them down. Tang Yangyun's body trembled and his eyes were filled with aghast. He attempted to escape without any hesitation, but Wang Lin let out a cold snort. The dense origin energy immediately squeezed and made all types of instant movement impossible. This spell was something Wang Lin had invented. By using the pressure of origin energy, he could make all instant movement spells useless. His fingers landed directly between Tang Yangyun's eyebrows. At this moment, several rays of light came from the distance and a roar came from inside one of the rays of light. Kill him and you will be buried with him. Wang Lin slightly frowned as his finger landed and origin energy rushed into Tang Yinyan's body, causing it to immediately collapse. It was turned into a mist of blood, and even his origin soul collapsed. Any trespasser within 10,000 feet will die. Wang Lin turned around and walked into the dark hole. The 10,000 feet area was his forbidden area. As long as he was here, no one could enter. The Wang Lin of now was qualified to say such words. At this moment, Li Yuan's exclamation came from inside the dark hole before his figure quickly shot out from inside. After he appeared, he looked at the shattered black dragon statue before he looked at Wang Lin and sent a divine sense message. Brother Shu, I have collected all the treasures inside. I also found a secret passage, but I don't know where it goes. The rays of light in the sky landed, revealing 4 figures. There were males and females among them. One of them was very handsome, but his lips were a bit thin and his eyes were gloomy. If Shen Gonghu was here, he would immediately recognize him as Tang Yangfeng, the one who mocked Shen Gonghu at the gate to the celestial realm. 10,000 feet forbidden area? Who do you think you are? One of the middle-aged men next to Tang Yangfeng sneered and stepped into the 10,000 feet forbidden area. One of the youths behind him, who had an arrogant expression, also stepped into the 10,000 feet area. Wang Lin's gaze was calm as he turned around and looked at the middle-aged man. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and he retreated a few steps back into the dark hole. His left hand formed a seal and then pointed between his eyebrows. Black lines immediately flew out, turned into restrictions, and landed around him. His cultivation level wasn't high enough to directly help, but give him enough time to place restrictions and he could ensure no one outside could get in within a short period of time. As a result, he was able to open a path of retreat for Wang Lin. Wang Lin's gaze wasn't the same as the one he looked at Shen Gonghu with when he saw a hint of the 3rd step. However, his gaze was filled with confidence because of his cultivation level, sealing the blood ancestor, and killing 2 illusory yin cultivators. This was a gaze that seemed to contain everything. The middle-aged man sneered. When Wang Lin looked over, not only did he not stop, he took another step. This step crossed dozens of feet and he headed directly for Wang Lin. What a joke, there is actually someone in the Thunder Celestial Realm who dares to threaten people with a 10,000 feet forbidden area. However, just as he spoke, he suddenly stopped because he saw Wang Lin's gaze. This gaze was filled with a cold calmness. It was as if this gaze was looking at a dead person. However, it was very different for the middle-aged man. His body suddenly stopped. It was as if everything around him had suddenly disappeared and this gaze was the only thing left. There was no killing intent inside that gaze, only calmness. However, that calmness caused the middle-aged man's mind to tremble. All of the origin energy inside his body activated like crazy as if that was the only way to counter the sense of crisis coming from that gaze. Cold sweat came from his forehead. The moment that gaze landed on him, he immediately felt like he was completely seen through. It was as if he was naked. This kind of feeling was extremely strong. In the end, he felt as if his skin had disappeared and his internal organs and origin soul were exposed before this gaze. In addition, as this feeling got stronger and stronger, he felt as if his origin soul was undergoing a radical change. It was as if his soul was being wiped from his origin soul and it was now just a mass of origin energy. He never had this kind of feeling ever since he became a cultivator. It was as if his body and origin soul were disappearing layer by layer. In the end, he even had the illusion that he couldn't even feel his own existence. A mouthful of blood came up his chest, his face was filled with a sickly red, and he immediately coughed out a large mouthful of blood. This caused his eyes to regain clarity, but there was fear within those eyes. Only a short period of time had passed from when Wang Lin looked over and when the middle-aged man coughed out blood. It happened so fast that no one saw what had really happened. At the moment the middle-aged man coughed out blood, Wang Lin moved. He calmly took a silently step, but the middle-aged man's expression immediately changed and he began retreating without any hesitation. He didn't know why, but he felt like Wang Lin's step had landed on his origin soul. This kind of feeling shook his mind greatly. He dared to step forward before because they had 4 people and Tang Yangfeng was there, so he wasn't afraid. However, right now he felt like he was facing a powerful corporeal young cultivator by himself. It was as if he would without a doubt die if he didn't retreat. Wang Lin's expression was calm. After he took one step, he lifted his feet and took 10 more steps toward the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's expression paled. He felt like every one of those steps were like thunder, and his mind was about to collapse. His retreat was almost not within his control, he was subconsciously retreating non-stop. He could even feel his heartbeat become faster and more intense each time Wang Lin's foot landed. He felt like his heart was already filled with cracks. After 10 steps, Wang Lin paused, raised his foot, and landed as he coldly looked at the middle-aged man. When that step landed, the middle-aged man coughed out a large mouthful of blood and he quickly retreated as if he had gone crazy. He didn't even realize that he had already retreated past the 10,000 feet forbidden area set by Wang Lin. When Wang Lin's last step landed, his heartbeat had reached its limit. Thump thump, thump thump, bang. His heart collapsed. The origin energy inside his body went out of control inside his body and directly tore apart his origin soul. The surroundings were completely silent. Tang Yanfeng's eyes became extremely cautious. Ever since he started cultivating, extremely few people at his level had made him cautious. Not only was he cautious, but he was very shocked. Even though it would be easy for him to kill the middle-aged man, to do so with just a glaze and 10 steps was difficult. This spell made him suck in a breath of cold air. With his insight, he had naturally seen that the middle-aged man's death had to do with origin energy. The other party's control of origin energy was ingenious. He had used the surrounding origin energy to squeeze in, create pressure, and eventually crush the heart of the middle-aged man. The woman beside him also had a gloomy expression. The 10,000 feet forbidden area was right before her, but she didn't dare to step forward. It was as if this 10,000 feet forbidden area was a real land of death. Wang Lin's gaze withdrew from the middle-aged man and switched to the youth that had come into the forbidden area right after the middle-aged man. The youth's expression became pale. He was even weaker than the middle-aged man. He had just entered the illusory yin stage and his cultivation hadn't stabilized yet. When he saw Wang Lin's gaze, he retreated out of the 10,000 feet area without any hesitation and said, "Senior, please don't blame me. Junior knows he did wrong. From now on, Junior won't even take half a step into the area. If I violate the promise, then punish me like the man before." As he spoke, he raised left hand and his origin energy activated. His pinky immediately exploded into a mist of blood. Wang Lin looked at the youth and withdrew his gaze. The youth let out a breath of relief and his heart pounded like crazy. Compared to his pinky, his life was more important. The excitement he had from entering the illusory yin stage had all disappeared. In his heart, he reminded himself that he had to be cautious in the future. Wang Lin didn't look at the rest of the people outside the 10,000 feet area. He turned around and walked toward the dark hole Li Yuan was in. Just at this moment, Tang Yangfeng suddenly said, "Fellow cultivator, please leave your name." "Shu Mu." Wang Lin's voice came from inside the dark hole. Then light came from the formation and completely sealed the entrance. "Shu Mu. I'll remember this name." Tang Yangfeng wanted to attack, but in the end he endured because he still didn't feel confident in winning. Shu Mu, all of the surrounding cultivators remembered this name as well. It was something they wouldn't forget in their life. "Shu?" The woman beside Tang Yangfeng frowned and her expression became gloomy. Tang Yanfeng's face was expressionless as he stared at the sealed dark hole and slowly said, "You also thought of it." The woman nodded and said, "Although there are many families named Shu in the All-Heaven star system, most are unknown. For a corporeal young cultivator to appear, and one this strong, it has to be the Shu family from planet Dong Lin. The descendants of planet Dong Lin haven't appeared in a very long time. Could this person be?" The woman's pupils shrank and she didn't continue speaking. Tang Yangfeng silently pondered. After a moment, he calmly said, "He is very strong. Even if he isn't a descendant of planet Dong Lin, his strength isn't far away from it. Our Tang family should avoid provoking him." "Then what about the two dead family members?" The woman looked at Tang Yanfeng. If they died, they are dead. Tang Yanfeng's expression was cold as he turned around and left. He even gave up on the dark hole under the formation. The woman nodded and followed after. As for the young man who had just entered the illusory yin stage, he quickly followed as well. He congratulated himself on making the right decision earlier. Someone who can even make the young master feel dread is not someone I can provoke. Shu Mu. After Tang Yanfeng's group left, the surrounding cultivators began to hesitate. Although Wang Lin had entered the dark hole, none of them dared to enter the 10,000 feet area. Even though the source of the dust was gone, it was as if this area had really become a land of death. After a long time, these people retreated one by one. In the end, none of them dared to take the risk. After all, the scene from before had already frightened them greatly. The name Shu Mu slowly spread among their friends as these people left. Only the formation on the ground gave off a faint light. After a long time, that light gradually dimmed until there wasn't any reaction left and it became a dead formation. When Li Yuan placed this formation, he calculated how to prevent outsiders from entering. His first choice was naturally using the dead formation. The dark hole under the formation wasn't big, but deep within it lied a passage. Although it was dark, a cultivator could clearly see everything. Li Yuan was in front and Wang Lin was following behind as the two walked down the tunnel. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and he said while he walked, "Brother Shu, I can confirm that we are the first ones to enter this place after the celestial realm's collapse. Look at the celestial spiritual energy fluctuations coming from the walls. If other people been here and the tunnel had been opened for a long time, all of this celestial spiritual energy would be gone." Wang Lin didn't speak, but his divine sense spread out toward the front. However, he didn't spread it out too far, because this was, after all, the remains of a celestial, so he needed to be cautious. Otherwise, he might easily cause a restriction to activate an attack. Li Yuan's voice was filled with doubt as he quickly said, "Brother Shu, in the dark hole from before, I found 3 treasures, but there is something unusual about them. I'll take them out later and we can analyze them." "Good." As Wang Lin spoke, his divine sense slowly spread ahead of them. This tunnel had no branching paths, just one road that went down. This tunnel seemed to have no end. The two of them had walked for more than half an hour without any end in sight. Li Yuan couldn't help but feel surprised. How deep is this place? Could this place be an overlapping fragment? With those doubts in mind, Li Yuan moved even faster. Wang Lin followed closely after and gradually frowned harder. As they continued to move forward, a strange feeling appeared inside his heart. This was a feeling of someone pressing their finger between his eyebrows and causing an unknown pain to appear there. The deeper they went into the tunnel, the stronger this feeling became. After half an incense stick of time, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He grabbed Li Yuan and immediately stopped. Li Yuan was startled as he turned around and looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin asked, "Does Brother Li have a strange feeling?" Li Yuan shook his head and said, "I don't have any feeling." "What does Brother Shu mean?" Wang Lin pondered for a bit before he looked at Li Yuan. His gaze fell between Li Yuan's eyebrows and he suddenly said, "Brother Li, disperse the restriction heart between your eyebrows." Li Yuan nodded. The source of his restriction heart was between his brows. The restriction heart slowly dissipated, and the moment it disappeared, Li Yuan immediately became pale. His eyes became fierce and were completely bloodshot. He sucked in a breath of cold air and the restriction heart reappeared. Only then was he able to calm down. His eyes were filled with aghast as he said, "I felt it." Wang Lin's eyes shined and slowly said, "It looks like it isn't only me who has this feeling." With that, he lifted his right index finger and the origin energy in his body surged and he began to draw. Curved lines began to form as Wang Lin's index finger moved. These lines released a silver glow as Wang Lin continued to form the symbol. However, the line at the bottom remained broken, as if the symbol wasn't complete. Wang Lin asked, "Does Brother Li recognize this symbol?" "It's a bit familiar." Li Yuan stared at the rune and began to ponder. After a long time, he sat down and began carefully searching through all the symbols he had studied and seen. Half an incense stick of time later, Li Yuan frowned and said, "There are 4 symbols that are similar. However, this symbol is obviously not complete, so it is impossible to judge which of the 4 it is. Brother Shu, where did you obtain this symbol?" Wang Lin didn't answer, but his divine sense continued to carefully spread. After a long time, he raised his right hand and continued drawing the symbol from the broken ends on the bottom. Li Yuan stared at the symbol and became more serious. In the end, he was filled with shock as he recognized this symbol. Wang Lin slowly said, "Brother Shu, this symbol is formed by the tunnel we are in. I spread out my divine sense along the way and was able to draw it. Brother Shu means that someone made the tunnel in the shape of this symbol." Li Yuan stood up. His cultivation level wasn't high enough to spread his divine sense to cover the tunnel, but he didn't doubt Wang Lin's words at all. "Brother Shu, this is a restriction rune among celestial restrictions. However, this is an extremely rare rune that can't be used by itself. Only when combined with other restrictions will it have any effect." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he asked, "What effect?" Li Yuan shook his head and said, "Unless we reach the end of the tunnel and see how the rune is drawn, it's impossible to determine what restriction this is." Wang Lin silently pondered for a while as he looked at the passage before him and said, "Since that is the case, let's go down and see." As he spoke, he led the way. As Li Yuan followed behind, his left hand continued to form seals and he continued to deduce the restriction. Their speed this time wasn't fast, but they didn't stop. As they moved forward, the feeling from between Wang Lin's eyebrows became even stronger. This made him look very gloomy. After half an hour, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. His divine sense had found the end. When his divine sense clearly saw the end, Wang Lin took a deep breath and immediately rushed out. There was a turn before them, and he immediately stopped after the turn. Li Yuan followed closely behind him. At this moment, he saw the end with his divine sense and began to ponder. The end of this passage was a vortex as tall as a person. It gave off a 5-colored glow, and as it rotated, the surroundings were shrouded in this 5-colored light. Li Yuan stared at the vortex as his left hand continued to move. He suddenly stopped and said, "Brother Shu, I have figured it out. The composition of this rune only has one use, and that is healing. And if I'm not wrong, this shouldn't be the only place with runes like. There should be 9 in total, and these 9 runes form a giant healing formation. This can be considered a grand undertaking in the Thunder Celestial realm." As Li Yuan said this, his eyes lit up and he looked at Wang Lin. There was one thing he didn't say, but he believed Wang Lin would be able to understand. Wang Lin calmly said, "Healing formation. Brother Li means that at the center of the formation, someone has been healed by this formation over the countless years." What Brother Shu said is correct. Only this answer can explain everything, although I can't tell if there is really someone using it to heal. If there is someone, then it must be. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light and he slowly said, "A celestial. Although this vortex leads to the formation center, it is sealed from the inside. However, I'm confident in opening it." Li Yuan stared at the vortex and revealed a strange light in his eyes. He slowly stepped forward and lifted his left hand. Wang Lin frowned. Li Yuan wasn't someone who was reckless, so how could he be so thoughtless? Wang Lin stepped forward next to Li Yuan and seized him. Li Yuan turned around and looked at Wang Lin. That strange light appeared inside his eyes again and he slowly said, "Brother Shu, didn't you want celestial spells? What's a better source for celestial spells than a celestial? Perhaps that celestial is really weak right now and we can go in and capture that person." A restriction formed in his left hand and he pushed it forward. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and he directly crushed the restriction. Origin energy surged from his right hand into Li Yuan, causing him to directly pass out. After doing all of this, Wang Lin turned around and looked at the vortex. He pondered for a moment before grabbing Li Yuan and slowly retreating. Just after he retreated less than 30 feet, the vortex suddenly stopped rotating. A gloomy aura came out and an eyeball appeared at the center of the vortex. At the same time, a strange voice echoed inside Wang Lin's mind. Do you want to learn celestial spells? This video will end here.